This video may come off as surprising when you consider what my last video was about, but in reality, essentially none of what I'm about to say in any way contradicts what I said in the last video. It's just a question of context in all due essentiality. And a difference of scale as well. I'm going to talk about what I like to call the myth of the universal individual. It's the thing where people go, they're just people like you and me. This statement is profoundly ignorant because it presumes that what you and me are is somehow a universal and contextless being, that it's just a product of what is natural for all humans to be. Nothing could be further from the truth. There is no such thing as the universal individual, is essentially what my video is. This video is about. The presumption behind the statement, they're just people like you and me, is essentially that all humans have the same drives and therefore also consequently have the same understanding of the universe that we do. Now, not only is this not true, this is demonstrably false. There are numerous studies that indicate that not only do people who live in different contexts from us not think like we do, but they actively have a worldview that essentially contradicts our own and is built on fundamentally opposing assumptions. A common such statement, or common such rather measure, is the difference between shame and guilt cultures, which is only one of the is only one possible contrast. The West, as we may call it, that's what I would call the area of Europe and consequently settled by Europeans, and that was under the influence of the Roman Catholic Church. That's what I define as the West, in case you wanted to know. This area of the world is largely defined by what is called guilt culture. That is a relation to morality that is not sourced by the community, by the other people you live by, but from within. In other words, when you do something wrong, no one else has to tell you that what you did was wrong. You feel that sense of wrong within yourself. Not everyone in a guilt culture naturally expresses these feelings. Though I think the pathologization of people who don't operate like that is actually complete cultural fabrication. That is not a mental illness, it's simply a different level of psychological operation, but that's beside the point. This contrasts with shame cultures, which is, need I tell you, the majority of the world. The majority of the world operates on shame cultures. And what shame cultures are cultures in which when you do something wrong, you will not feel necessarily any sort of guilt about it. But as soon as someone discovers that what you did was wrong, that is when you are going to feel bad about it. You might think I'm just making this up, but no, this is genuinely how most people in the world operate and how most cultures in the world function. India and China are the obvious examples. They're the largest countries, largest cultural spheres, blocks, largest states in the world. And both of them are shame cultures. And these are only civilized people we're talking about right now, okay? Pre-civilized people generally aren't either of these anyhow. They're generally fear cultures, which do not have a concept of, how do I say it? They don't really have a concept of wrong in the same way. I can't even really explain it. They're essentially, wrong is only in context to what hurts directly, like in the present. It's a complete alien understanding of morality to the one we have. But the point here is, what I'm trying to tell you is that this idea that people elsewhere are just basically like us is false. They absolutely are not. They don't think like we do. They don't act like we do. Their fundamental assumptions about how the world works is fundamentally, irreconcilably almost different from the way we operate. Now, am I saying this makes them bad people? No, I don't care about them. That's my actual opinion. I don't care what their morality is, as long as they exist by themselves, separately from us. Because the kinds of institutions created by our different cultures will reflect these mindsets fundamentally. And I don't want their ideas about morality to predominate or even have significant influence in our nations, because quite frankly, it is going to reflect their assumptions about the world, and their assumptions about the world just are different than ours, and that will fundamentally change what we are. And if you're okay with that, I mean, if that is the case, I mean, go ahead, I don't care. As long as it does not affect me, I do not care. I'm switching accents back and forth accidentally, but point being, there is no... The fundamental assumption about the statement, just humans like us, is that fundamentally we can just change. We can just change between different arbitrary points of view. This is not true either. This is also false. People are fundamentally not individuals as such, or rather, individuals and collectives are not so neatly distinguishable as we can just take one person from one place and put them in another place and they will just become like the people there. This isn't how people operate. People operate through connection. People operate through commonalities. People operate through common understanding. But unless you have actively thought about any of this, you won't understand the differences between people on this sort of level. Because fundamentally, you can't just know these things. These are not like God-given. This is not God-given gnosis about the state of other people's minds, and we really don't even know the state of other people's minds. Anyways, this is just like an approximation. But like that should tell you a lot. Anyways, it's not that these people are bad. It's simply that they have such a completely alien worldview to us that it doesn't make sense to just assume that you know how they operate. We don't. Like, we don't even know how, like, technically we operate between each other. The only reason we have a closer level of understanding is largely because, well, we grow up in the same context. We have been raised around, like, vaguely similar values and operate within the similar societal frameworks. And even then, people in our own communities can generally be divided by things like class and race and sex and all that. And that itself is a barrier. But to assume then that people with even more different contexts will be somehow comparable to the person you are and the person you want other people to be is nonsense. It's completely nonsensical. It's completely irrational thinking. And it's fundamentally based on this assumption that, well, basically, we are the default. The way we think is normal, and the way everyone else thinks is just an anomaly, a mistake. It isn't. No, it's the consequence of their context. And it's not like I'm a complete determinist about this. Like, yes, people can change. People can change their mind. People can grow into becoming a different culture on some level, but even then, they're generally going to be alien at some level. But the more you allow them to interact with their previous communities, which we let them do a lot, need I fucking note, that generally people don't like being around people they don't understand. And that's normal. But that is what they will do. They will interact with people who they understand, who they have connections to. So fundamentally, if you want people to become like yourself, you need them to interact with you and people like you, not people like the person they already are. I don't know, this is a short rant. I just wanted to get this off my chest because it annoys me so much every time some absolute midwit decides to think that we're just all human, we all work the same, there's no difference between people, we all just human beings, man. And it's just like, yes, but what that actually means is not what you think it does. It isn't how we operate. We don't work like this. We fundamentally are not products of our own will. We are products of context and of community. And I wanted to say that, like, the fundamental differences between, like, the understanding of communities as groups of individuals and the understanding of individuals as products of communities. Neither of these viewpoints are, neither of these viewpoints are wrong, but they're not the same. Like, which one you prioritize will give different outcomes. Both can be true still. Again, both are really true. But which one you think of inherently and intuitively will inform how you think about the world. And you need, like, really, if you want to be the best person you could possibly be, you should generally assume both. Think of both at the same time. Generally, the best person is not the person with the right perspective, it's the person who understands the most perspectives at the same time. That's all I have to say. This is the month's video. I'm lazy. I just threw this out in less than a quarter hour. So yeah, have fun.